And welcome, traders, to Enduring Resolve. This podcast where we talk about achieving financial independence through trading. I'm your host, Luis. This is episode 6. Here we're going to talk about the most controversial topic of all. Can anyone become a trader? All right. So in this episode, we're going to talk, about yourself. We're going to talk about how to determine if trading is for you. So this is very deceptive. A lot of people get into trading, because they're either sold on it, they see how easy or simple it can be, and the reality is the act of trading is very simple. It's very, very easy to place an order, get into one, and into a position, and then place another order and get out of your position. It takes absolutely no skill whatsoever to do that. And what's the scariest part of all is that it doesn't take any level of skill randomly to make money in a trade. So if you can place an order, get in, place an order, get out, one of two things are going to happen. You're either going to make money or you're going to lose money. That's about it. So that process is very, very simple. But the art and science of trading is not simple. This is all the emotional and psychological things that you have to go through in order to achieve consistency as a trader. And that's something that I'm working with as well. So that is the biggest thing that you need to get yourself, wrap your mind around, because, to most laymen and to really the real irresponsible people, they just jump into this stuff. There's no barrier to entry to get into trading. And we've talked about that in the past, and in their past episodes. I invite you to go back and listen to those if you haven't. But it's the biggest challenge facing traders. So giving you the answer right up front, can anyone be a trader? No, not anyone can be a trader. Trading is just for those that are dedicated and committed to doing this. Now, how do you know if that's you? Well, that's what we're going to talk about. I mean, that's the challenge here, right? So backing up one, financial independence. That's what this podcast, that's what this whole effort's about, is about you following me as I achieve this and sharing my experiences with you, letting you know what's working, what's not. You can do this with anything, and if you go back a couple episodes to episode number 2, where we talk about why financial independence through trading, I get into that. I've tried other different methods, and any of them would have worked. But all methods require a level of commitment. And it's up to you as an individual to know if that level of commitment is within you to sacrifice and do what's necessary to be successful at whatever method you chose, be that real estate, be that owning a business, whatever it is, requires a certain level of commitment for you to be successful at that. So what makes trading unique among all the efforts that I've tried is that it's very unique in that it's very, very demanding on your personal development. It's very demanding on your psychological and emotional development. And it's also more solitary than the other efforts I've done. Networking isn't as critical as a trader. So you can argue that it lends itself to the introverts of the world. That said, a lot of my success has come from having a phenomenal group of people around me that I interact with very regularly, almost daily. We've traded together. So there is success comes in trading also in having a support structure of some kind. It comes in having friendships. Those people are my friends. I wouldn't call them my network. I guess at one point they were, but it can be solitary, but to be successful here, you also need a support network. It's just, you don't have to keep going out to networking functions like you do in most other businesses. You don't need to keep shaking hands, kissing babies. There's none of that. But that doesn't mean that nothing came in to fill that void. What came to fill that void is now your dedication to the craft, because I see this very much as a craft. You're getting professional. I see becoming good at trading just like playing an instrument. So I'm a drummer and a guitarist. You can't teach someone to be a drummer. You can't teach someone to be a guitarist. That person has to take it upon themselves to sit down. If you're a guitarist, you're doing your scales, you're doing your chords, you're practicing chord changes, you're learning songs. If you're a drummer, you're doing your rudiments, you're doing your grooves, you're trying to get your time right. All those things are what makes a drummer and a guitarist musicians, within their own instrument, within their own craft. You can't teach that. You have to do that over and over, do repetitive actions over and over, study, learn from others. Trading is the same way, guys. You have to go from those that have come before you. You have to learn what works for you. And if you're not willing to make that commitment, it's never going to work. So the challenge with that is, it starts at the beginning, is you have to understand how to develop a strategic plan. And our last couple episodes, that was episode 5, that was the last episode, and how we talked about how many strategies do you need to be a trader. That's what's foundational into becoming a trader, is finding a strategy and then committing to that strategy until you're profitable. And on top of that, that requires you developing a trading plan and then sticking to that trading plan. So that is the equivalent of running scales, doing what's that foundational work that musicians do to be musicians. So that's what we have to do as traders to be successful traders. And that is what keeps people from being successful traders. Now, a lot of people don't take heed that, it's possible to make a lot of money as a trader, but it's also possible, if not easier, to lose more money than what you have trading, So most people who start this venture blow up their accounts in their first year. Something like 95% of people blow up their accounts in the first year. And that's what I'm trying to communicate here, guys, is you don't want to be an average trader. You don't want to be an average person. You want to be a professional coming into this. You want to know if this is for you. If it's not, the best thing you can do for yourself, for your family, for your future, is to not do this, okay? This is not for everyone. And it's okay if it's not for you. It is perfectly fine if it's not for you. It doesn't make you any less of a person, doesn't make you any less smart or capable. It doesn't mean that you can't contribute to the human experience in another way. It's just, but don't force it if it's not for you. Now, the roots for success, and this is just like in everything else, you got to have a strong desire for self-development. Like, you've got to want to learn what it means to be a trader, how to get good as a trader. And a lot of those topics we're going to cover on just this podcast and this channel and our blog at www.enduringresolve.com. Just keep tuning into there. We'll keep seeing me grow as a trader. You'll see all the different paths I'm going for that. So with that comes a strong desire to learn, trying to learn this craft, try to learn about the act of being a trader, not just the markets and what the different assets are, what's an option, what's a future, what's a stock. There comes a point where you can't learn any more about that stuff. And the more you know doesn't make you a better trader. What makes you a better trader is understanding your strategies, your tactics, when to get into trades, when to get out of trades, when you should be in the market, when you shouldn't be in the market. And that's what makes a trader. So on top of that, you have to remain aware of evolving technologies. So when trading started, there's people yelling at each other in a pit, right? And in the last 20 years, last 20, 30 years, we saw this pretty violent shift over to doing this on computers. And 20 years later, we start seeing that most trades being placed on the markets are done by computers. So not even a human being. So it's this big onus on you to stay abreast of all this technological change that's happening in finance. So you can't turn a blind eye to that. And lastly, you have to keep exploring and keep finding new strategies as your strategies stop working or don't work in the current market conditions, how to adjust those strategies. That's all part of becoming a trader. If all those things seem just like hard work, trading is not for you. So again, don't feel bad if you can't make this work. It just might not be for you. And here's the big whammy, right? And this all of us has been on this planet long enough. We all learned it's persistence and consistence, right? That's enduring resolve. Sometimes you do have what it takes to become successful in whatever it is that you're doing, but you lack the persistence or the consistence to get to that point. So it might be possible theoretically, right? And I say that honestly, I think it's theoretical. I don't think it's true in practice that anyone can become a trader. That I say it's theoretical because if you had an indefinite amount of time to dedicate to learning the craft of trading, then yeah, I'd say most of us could be a trader. All of us could be traders. But we're finite creatures. We have other things in a life that matter more than doing trades or running businesses. We've got families, we've got hobbies, we've got other things that we want to do. And there's only so much time that you can dedicate to the craft of trading. So you have to take into account, work-life balance, just like in everything else, is how much time are you going to give to this thing, So and how long are you honestly going to wait to make this work? There's a great, I'll have to find this and share it with you all. It's going to take a lot of Google searches. But this an orthopedic surgeon came across several years ago. He had a product on price action. This gentleman, one of the brightest America has to offer, right? One of the brightest the human race has to offer, an orthopedic surgeon, right? This gentleman took 10 years to figure out how to trade. And he had the stick-to-itiveness to make that happen. Now, we'd expect that from somebody in his profession to not yield or quit easily. So it's not surprising that he succeeded. But what is surprising, at least to me, was that it took him 10 years to get there of solid, consistent work, right? So you're talking about one of the smartest people, by virtue of their profession, by virtue of his profession, one of the smartest people in our society. It took him 10 years to crack the code as to how to be a trader. And now, he's been, I guess, for the last couple of decades now, teaching on how to be a trader and how to use his strategy to be profitable. So, yes, given enough time, anyone can become a trader, but we don't have an infinite amount of time. So the reality is there's probably something out there that is more catered to you and your needs, and it might be best for you to go do that other thing. Now, if the thought of just hearing that makes your stomach turn and just makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up, then maybe you have what it takes to be a trader, and you have the stick-to-itiveness required. But if all these words I'm telling you, if you have no emotional reaction to them and you're just like, oh, this guy's just full of it, anybody can do this, you're gonna be a casualty of trading, and just have at it. This is my opinion to you. The whole point of this is to let you know that it's gonna take work. If you're willing to take that work, then hey, you can jump on this journey with me. As each one of these podcasts and videos come out, every time a blog post comes out, follow us on www.enduringresolve.com, comment on them, and it's best to not do it alone. We may never meet face to face, we may never have a conversation, but this is like the new age. We can have relationships with people that we've never physically meet. And if I inspire you to keep in the game and keep at it, then you're going to inspire me too, So this is what this episode is about, is just realizing that we need each other and you need to commit. And if not, it's okay. It's all right. Just go find something else. But thank you so much for tuning in. Our next episode is going to be about leaving your job to become a full-time trader. That's a great one, right? We had episode 3, which was all about trading with a job. We talked about all the, in the sequential episodes after that, everything that it takes to be a trader. Now we're getting to that point of, well, how do I know I can leave my job to go do this full time? Well, tune into our next episode. I'll talk about that. And please subscribe to our website, www.enduringresolve.com. It'll keep you posted on every time a podcast episode comes out, or we post a video on YouTube. Subscribe to this podcast on your favorite podcast app, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, this is Luis telling you, keep it green. Thanks, guys.